Good afternoon. Thank you guys for joining us today. My name is Ryan McCorkle, and I'm in inside sales here with Ludlum Measurements in Sweetwater, Texas. I've been with the company for about 4.5 years total, and today we're excited that you chose to attend this webinar with us today. We know your schedules are very busy. We really appreciate it. First off, we want to start out by saying that we hope you're staying healthy, you're staying safe in all this time with COVID-19. But during this time, Ludlum has not stopped thinking about you, the customer. We've continued to look into areas that we can better serve you, and we've continued to build our quality products and built up our inventory. That way we can reduce lead times for future orders. Right now, I'd like to welcome you again to our very first webinar. If you have any questions at all or any comments, please send those by clicking the icon. It should be on the right-hand side of your screen. The comments has this question mark in the center there. So make sure you send us those questions and comments, and we'll get to them as soon as we can. We do want to tell you that we are experiencing just a small lag time, so we'll get to those as soon as they come in on our end. But today, like again I say, welcome to our very first webinar. This webinar is intended to provide just a brief overview of our newest stretch scope, the Model 3078 and 3078i. The Model 3078 is an ergonomic, lightweight instrument designed to measure gamma radiation while remaining at a safe distance in high fields of radioactivity. It's capable of measuring from 0.1 MR per hour to 1,000 R per hour. The 3078 has a mast made from a strong, lightweight carbon fiber. The total weight 5.4 pounds, and this includes the batteries and shoulder strap. It has a retracted length of 1.3 meters or 4.1 feet, and an extended length of 4.7 meters or 15.3 feet. The 3078 has electronics that can be easily detached for the ease of battery replacement. The 3078 and 3078i features an external detector housing on a telescoping mast that contains 2 GM detectors, one for low range, one for high range. These can be either controlled individually or can auto range depending on the strength of the radiation field. The external detector housing also includes an LED lamp to illuminate inspection areas in low light situations. The 3078i differs as it adds an internally mounted detector that's used to measure the dose to the operator. Both of these instruments have a large backlit LCD. It's digital and auto ranging and has 4 modes of operation: the rate meter mode, max reading mode, scalar count mode, and integrate mode. And calibration is done via the Lumic calibration software. At this time, I want to introduce to you the project engineer on the Model 3078, James Comstock. James graduated from Southern College of Technology, and he's been with LMI for about 8.5 years. So at this time, I'm going to turn the webinar over to James, and he's going to tell you a little bit more about the 3078. James?
Hi, thank you, Ryan. The 3078 and 3078i are essentially the same unit in size and approximate weight. The difference being that the 3078i does have an internally mounted detector. It's located on the front of the instrument and can be used to measure integrated dose while you're doing your normal readings. As Ryan mentioned, it is easily detachable. It disconnects and can be removed from the instrument by pressing this little button, and then can also be used to survey as needed if you just want to use the internal detector for surveying, because the internal detector does have rate mode capability as well as scalar count, and in addition to its integrated dose. Let me switch over and I'll show you some of the features of the instrument from the keypad standpoint. The instrument comes with 7 buttons on the instrument, 4 main buttons, as well as 3 buttons on the handle. The primary button, of course, is the on button. You press and you hold it for approximately a second, and the instrument will start to power up. Once the instrument powers up, you'll get an indication of the state of the instrument. In this particular case, the blue LED is lit, so we are in auto ranging mode, and the green LED is flashing to indicate that we are currently looking at the low range detector at the end of the scope. If you want to, you can also be able to individually control the detectors on the end of the scope by pressing the detector button. A single press on the detector button will generate a single beep. And now we are on the low detector as indicated by the green LED. And from here, you will be able to measure anything from 0.1 MR per hour up to 2 R per hour. If we want to switch manually over to the high range detector, another press of the detector button. And now we're on the high range, where we can measure from 0 MR per hour up to 1000 R per hour. And then we can also go back to auto ranging. To have direct access to the internal detector, we're going to press and hold the detector button for 3 beeps, approximately 2 seconds. And now we have switched to the internal detector, and we can see a fixed reading. In this case, we're looking at the integrated dose of the internal detector as indicated by the INT, and we can see a reading of 3.73 micro R. As with other instruments, you can actually switch back and forth through the modes, which I'll demonstrate here in a moment. To return back to the main detector, external detector, you press and hold the detector button for 3 beeps, approximately 2 seconds, and return to the external detector. The thing to note is we have 2 high voltage boards running at the same time. So that way the external detector is running at the same time that the internal detector. So if you do set up an alarm on the internal detector, know that it will even occur even if you're on the external and viewing your external detector screen. Another feature with this instrument is when we're up and running, we can use the program button, and the program button, when we're looking at the external detector, is a quick way to just switch over and view what's going on the internal detector in the integrate mode. So if you want to see what your dose is while you're operating an instrument, just press and release it, and immediately goes back to the external detector. Or you can go back and switch to the internal detector by holding the detector button for 2 seconds, 3 beeps, and it will actually lock it into the internal detector mode. The on button is also used for the audio. This adjusts the click audio level. It does not affect the alarm or the button audio level. The click audio level can be adjusted to 4 different settings. There's off, there's low, medium, and high, as indicated by this speaker indicator in the upper right-hand corner. And by pressing it, this is the mute mode as it's crossed out. So there'll be no click audio, but you'll still hear button and alarm audio. Now, one more press, and we're up to low or medium or back to high by an indication of the number of waves that's coming out of the audio. The next button to that is the units button, and the units button allows us to change the units for either the external detector or the internal detector, depending upon which one you're viewing. In this case, we're currently looking in MR per hour, but by pressing the units button 1 time, it'll switch over to counts per minute. And we can look at it in either range. So while we're at 0.0 MR per hour to 2 R per hour on the low detector, the low detector will also go from 0 counts per minute up to 10 million counts per minute if it's locked into that range. Another feature of this is the mode button, and the mode button is used to switch through the available modes. As Ryan mentioned, we do have a rate mode, a max mode, we have a scalar count mode, and an integrate mode. The instruments are shipped default with the external detector configured for the rate mode, the max mode, and the scalar count mode, and without the integrate mode enabled. But it can be enabled through using your software or going through a setup menu. Internally, the internal detector is the default is the rate mode, the scalar mode, and the integrate mode. And again, if you wish to have a max mode on the internal detector, you can go through the setup menu or make an adjustment with the software. As I press the mode button, we now go to a max mode, and when we're in max mode, this is going to indicate the maximum reading that you're going to read while you're in this mode. Another press is going to take it to the scaler, and in this particular case, it's set up right now as the user-defined value of 6 seconds, and it's currently in counts per minute as in counts as was indicated by the C when you first entered it. We can change the units back over to R, and it's going to give us a dose reading for approximately 6 seconds. The 6 is programmable. The user can define the length of time that they want to have one particular count for, or they can take advantage of using the built-in count timers by pressing the log button and holding it for 2 seconds, 3 clicks. We have now changed over to 0. This is going to be an infinite scalar count. 3 more counts. Now we're back up to 6 seconds because that is one of our default counts. Then we can also do 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, and finally 10 minutes. Now, please note that we only have 3 digits on the display. So since we can't show a full 10-minute count, we shift 10 over and we start flashing the colon icon. When you see the colon flashing, that indicates that you're looking at minutes instead of minutes and seconds. And then you can initiate the count by pressing the log button, which will automatically just log it to your system, or you can press it by pressing the ACK reset button 1 click, and it will just start counting down from there, and it will take all the readings for the next 10 minutes. And in this case, because I initiated it without the log button, it won't log the result, but you can see the result. After seeing the result, if you're happy with it, you can press the log button and it will log what's currently displayed on the screen. And we can also reset this counter by holding it for 2 seconds, 3 beeps, and it will reset the scalar count back again. And then we can go back to mode. If there is an alarm that occurs, when the alarm is occurring, it will be displayed on the top of the screen. It'll say alarm and it'll indicate the level. Each mode and each unit has 3 available alarms. So it will indicate alarm 1, alarm 2, or alarm 3. So if you have it in R per hour or sieverts per hour, and you want to set an alarm on the low detector, you can set that, and whenever it reaches that, it'll give you an alarm indication. Now, you can press the ACK button 1 time. It will silence the audio tone that comes with it, but the alarm will stay on the screen and will not clear until you get out of that field. If you want to have alarms that transition from your low detector to the high detector, the thing you have to understand is the alarms are based on the current detector. So let's say you want an alarm on your low detector at 5 MR per hour. You can do that and set it up for your low detector. But if you're in auto ranging mode and you switch from the low detector to the high detector, you essentially no longer see the alarms for the low detector, but that's okay because we have 3 alarms on the high detector. So we could also copy over and say that on the second detector or the high detector, we want to have a 5 MR per hour alarm, and then maybe set up a 5 R per hour alarm, and then whatever third alarm that you want. And so when it switches, it will automatically pick up the new alarm and continue to display it. The detector, the instrument is set up so that the low range external detector, as well as the internal detector, is configured to operate from 0 to 2 R per hour, and the high range being 0 to 1,000 R per hour. And it will physically latch at that point if you're looking at an individual detector. So at this point, it will not go higher than 2 R per hour because we are latched into the low detector mode. And if we go to the high detector mode, it will go to 1,000 R per hour. But what happens in auto ranging is when it reaches the 2 R per hour maximum that we've set for the low detector, it'll automatically range over to the high range detector and continue from there. To prevent oscillation that might occur, if you're taking a reading that's right at 2 R per hour or so, so that's not switching back and forth between high and low detector, we actually put a minimum range on the high detector so that way, whenever it drops down to 800 MR per hour, it will then switch back over. So there's about a 1.2 R per hour kind of a hysteresis area in which the instrument will not switch. Finally, the mode button can also be used to turn on the lamp. As was indicated in the PowerPoint presentation you saw earlier, press and hold it for 2 seconds. It will turn on the lamp at the end of the stretch scope, and it will give you an indication to let you know that the lamp is on. Please note the lamp does consume a lot of battery usage and will reduce the life of the instrument, life of the batteries in the instrument if it's continually used. So use as often as you necessarily use it, but if you don't need it, please turn it off. So now finally, there is a setup menu. There are a lot of commands. There's like 960 commands in this instrument, features that needs to be enabled. And one of the ways to enable that is on power up. When you first power up, as the screen's coming up, you can press the program button once, and as soon as it gets to the main screen, it will jump over into the setup menu. I will not go through all the setup menu features because there are quite a lot, but I will show you how you can also get to the setup menu without having to turn the instrument off, and that's just by holding the on button for 2 seconds. And when it starts counting down, that resets the 4-second timer, and at that point we can go into setup menu. So for the first 4 seconds, once you get to the rate screen, the program button gives you access to the setup menu. After 4 seconds, then you have direct access to the integrated dose that's on the internal detector, so long as you do have an internal detector. And in this case, we get into a setup menu, and there are a number of different screens, and the manual will have detailed information as to how to go and navigate through these screens and do the settings. But in this particular case, we're just looking at device menu, the log menu, a configuration menu, calibration menu, channel 1 menu, unit 1 menu, and unit 2 menu, and a reset feature, which is used by us here at our plant to reset the instrument back to defaults, and can be used in the field in critical applications, but it's password protected. So if you need to use that, please give us a call. And then pressing and holding the log button will take us back to our main screen. So that pretty much covers all of the features of the instrument, and we can switch back over now and take a look at the main instrument and see if there's any other issues that we need to address. So as Ryan mentioned, batteries are accessible. Remove the instrument. Battery compartment is here. There is a single screw, quarter turn screw, turn it off. Uses 4 AA batteries. You can replace the batteries without having to take anything else apart. Once you replace the batteries, put it back in, latch it in place. There is a device inside of here, a capacitor that holds the charge. So when you remove the batteries, if you've programmed the real-time clock in here, it will retain the real-time clock for, I'm not 100% sure, 8 hours, 12 hours. I'll go back and do some more testing and then get that back to you if you have any concerns, but plenty of time for you to be able to go in and change the batteries and install new ones and not lose your time settings. And as with all our 3000 series instruments, it does have backlit display that is adjustable, and we have a sensor here that detects the light and will adjust the backlight levels depending upon that, including the LED backlight levels. At this point, I believe we're willing to take any questions that you may have.
So yeah, we're going to turn it over to you guys to ask your questions. We already have a few that have come through, so we appreciate that. If you do have any questions, go ahead. Now's the time to send those in. We're going to jump into these. So We had the first one, looks like we answered. The second question we have, what effect does the LED have on the detector response?
We have not seen any indication that the LED has really caused any significant change in the response of the detector. But if there is some concern, we will go ahead and I will talk to our testing lab, and we will go through a series of tests, including our standard calibration tests that we perform, and go through each range to find out if it's affecting the response, if it's affecting the reading in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, next, how are the telescoping segments locked? Is it a quarter turn or is it continuous tightening for each segment?
It is continuous tightening for each segment. We've got it set up now so that whenever the scope is fully collapsed, there's about a 1/4 inch gap, so that way you don't have any pinching. So you just do a little turn to extend the scope, and then another turn to extend each section. So if you hold, you can extend each section. Oh, sorry. A little easier to do standing up than it is sitting down. And then you can just keep extending each of the sections, and then just push all the sections back in. Get them back in, and then just tighten them up. So it doesn't take a whole lot in terms of being able to make the adjustments to tighten it. So I wouldn't say it's a latching, but it is a continuous turn, and you can continue to spin it.
Okay. Next, are there accommodations to sleeve the telescoping arm?
I know that there are sleeves available. Somebody had sent us a copy of or a picture of one where they just actually ordered it from a local boxing company, that they just went ahead and ran a plastic sleeve over the top of it. Maybe take a little rubber band, kind of hold it in place, and then that way it protects the telescoping arm. And then after you're done, you can throw it away to eliminate your contamination.
Okay, and then it also asks if the telescoping arm is rebuildable.
It is possible to rebuild it. I mean, we can tear it apart and pull apart each individual section, but I would probably recommend sending it into to our company for service to let us be able to do that, just because of the experience and the gluing capabilities that we have available.
Okay. How is the probe housing connected to the telescoping arm? Can it be disassociated from the arm?
It does not have a quick release connector. It is connected in such a way that we have enabled it to be able to spin, so that this spins freely. There is a coiled cable that runs the full length that will expand out and contract, but it's physically connected by the physical detector is connected by 3 screws, but there's also 4 wires that are on it that you'd have to go through and take it apart and remove the wires. Typically when we do service, or anybody's done service in the field, they'll remove these 3 screws, pull off the cover, and remove the tubes themselves if the tubes are bad. However, we do have a presentation available that we can make available to you if you want to see more instructions on how to remove the tube.
Okay, now we have a calibration type question. Do you factory calibrate the probe to the side or head on?
We factory calibrate it to the side.
Okay. I'll also ask, what kind of batteries? Do you say this one also shows Sieverts?
It also shows Sieverts, R per hour. We actually have other capabilities. This instrument is going to become the base for quite a few of our instruments. So Sieverts is not an issue. Order it up; it'll display in Sieverts for you.
Okay. And did you mention what kind of batteries?
Oh, the batteries. They're just regular AA off the shelf. buy them at your local store. I think ours are, I can't remember, 2650 milliamp hour AA batteries. And you know, if you want to, you can use rechargeable batteries. You just have to pull them out of the instrument and recharge them yourself and put them back into it, and that's not an issue.
Okay. Can calibrations be done remotely via USB cable?
Yes, you can plug into with a USB cable into it. It does it's a human interface device that connects to it and uses the Lumic 2.0 software to be able to calibrate with it, in addition to being able to make adjustments through the setup menu.
Okay, and did you mention rechargeable batteries?
Yes, well, it doesn't come with rechargeable batteries built into the instrument, so there's not a direct way to recharge it. But if you purchase rechargeable batteries and an external charger, you can pull them out, recharge the batteries and put them back in, so that's won't be a problem.
Okay. Is the probe calibration resident with the probes, so you could use the telescoping units with different bodies?
We prefer to keep the probe matched with the body, and while I don't believe I have it on this one, I'll have to double check. We are actually, no, it's not on this one. We're going to serialize so that the serial number that's associated with the instrument is also going to be associated with the body, just because of the detector changing. And since we're not storing the actual calibration information in the detector, we really need to keep the detector, the scope with the body.
Okay, does it have Bluetooth function?
It will have Bluetooth function. I'm actually writing the code right now. I've just implemented AUXCOM capability with auxiliary communication. It's a serial port that's inside that allows us to connect to many different devices, and a Bluetooth device is one of them. So it's on my desk in my office, and as soon as I leave here today, I'll be back to working on the Bluetooth.
Okay, we have a question here from Mexico City. Hello from Mexico City. How does the detector connect to the meter?
The detector, the whole stretch scope connects to it. There are 4 pins that we have that are inside. They're spring-loaded pins. And then we have on the body, we have 4 pins that made up to it. So that way, whenever you slide into it, so we have a ground, a low detector, a high detector, and one for our external LED. So when you push this into place, the spring-loaded pushes and guarantees our contact, and it latches into place. So that way, we have direct access to everything that's in the probe body.
Next question, does efficiency of the meter change as probe is extended?
No.
Okay. How easy is it to replace the detector if it gets damaged?
Again, I mentioned that a little earlier. If the whole detector gets damaged, there is a little bit of procedure to go through about removing the screws and soldering the wires, getting a new detector onto the end of it, and having to go through recalibration. And we have put together a little presentation on how to go about doing a detector change, and that can be made available. Just contact your rep or contact us, and we'll get that into your hands.
Okay. Can the measurements be stored live via Bluetooth to a database or spreadsheet?
Through Bluetooth, we can do it through the Lumic linker, and I believe we've set up the capability now to store the data through the Bluetooth and the Lumic linker to be able to recall the data at a later point.
Next question, is there a stop which prevents the pole from being pulled all the way apart, the pole extending beyond its range?
Yes, it will not just automatically come out and fall apart. There is a stop inside that will prevent it from extending all the way out. So if I just take one section, keep the other ones, you can kind of hear the stop inside that prevents it from basically falling out.
Next question, is it set up for telemetry?
No.
At this point, it is not.
Not at this time.
Can you change the cal constant and dead time without being connected to a computer?
Yes. The cal constant dead time, we have a dead time correction 1 and dead time correction 2 inside the instrument. You can go in through the setup menu and change the calibration constant and the dead time. The only thing you need to remember is while you have a variable exponent component to it, you're limited to 3 digits of resolution for setting those values.
Okay, can it be paired to a mobile phone?
It can be paired to a mobile phone once we get the Bluetooth working and use the Lumic Linker app, and then you can actually connect to it with your mobile phone.
Okay, and then we've got any risk of the coil cord getting twisted and kinked?
I know when we first start using it, there is a possibility that if you extend it out and then twist it, a lot of times it's kind of like an old telephone cord, a landline telephone cord, that if you pull it out and you start twisting it long enough that when you pull it back in, while the internal diameter of the scope itself wants to prevent it from doing twisting, it can become a little bit kinked. And so usually just pulling it back out, a little twist to undo, kind of like you would with an old telephone cord, where you pull it out and you turn the handle until it gets unkinked and close it back up. But for the most part, most users will not ever experience that issue.
Okay, we may have mentioned it, but what is the max on the high range?
Max on the high range is 1,000 R per hour.
1,000 R, okay. And then also, let's see, does this device have other communication port like RS-232 or something like that?
As I mentioned, it does have an auxiliary communication port. I just finished developing a new RS2, true RS2 port that would actually adapt to this. So you could plug it in. We put in an RS-232 adapter. We have a cable available that comes out, and it can plug back into a regular RS-232, a DB9 style port, and we can communicate to that. Or if you really want, we can actually put in a different type of setup, and you'll get a different cable that has a USB on the end of it. That uses a proprietary chip that plugs into your computer, and it's treated as a COM port. So that capability is currently available into it and is working right now. I'm currently testing it at where it's continually reporting counts per minute every second, or just a raw count every couple of seconds.
Okay.
We have any more questions? Don't hesitate to contact your rep or contact us if you have any more questions. We're here to help. We're wanting to make sure that we get you the instrument that you need into your hands. And you have a pretty quick response time in terms of getting back to you. We won't leave you hanging for weeks at a time. I'm here from about 6 in the morning till about 5:30 in the evening or so, 5 days a week. So first thing I do is hit email. So if I receive any email, I will respond back to you.
Okay, and then we have one more come in. We'll have time for just a few more points we want to make on the 3078 and 3078i. Two questions. What is the max range in sieverts? And also, what are you guys doing as far as the pinch points on the telescoping handle?
The max in sieverts is roughly about 100 times less than the R, so it'll put us down to about 10 sieverts per hour as being our max. And as for the pinch points, we've actually made a design change so that way whenever it collapses, you end up with this 1/4 inch gap, whereas our older scopes, the coupler as we go through each section would actually come in contact with each other, but by leaving this gap, we do maintain elimination of those pinch points. The only thing you do have to realize though is, and we just found that, is that when it is extended out, these couplers can come in contact together. It separates the pinch points when the whole pole is collapsed.
Okay. Well, guys, I think we have one more question coming in here, but what we want to let you guys know is we are continually looking for ways that we can improve our products. If there's any questions, any comments that you think something that we could look into, definitely let us know. Like I said, reach out to our sales department or reach out to your local rep and voice those concerns with us, and we'll definitely take those into consideration. But we do have, let's see, couple more questions. Do you have an IP rating for the scope?
I believe our current IP rating is 53. I'll have to get back to you on that from our testing, but I believe that was currently our anticipated rating.
Okay. Hey guys, we want to tell you that there are two versions to this, the model 3078, which has the low and high range tube, and then the 3078i, which has the internal detector inside the housing. So, but at this time, we're gonna shut this thing down. But we want to thank you for taking the time, your busy schedules to join us today, and we're excited to start throwing our new products out there for you guys. And if you guys have any questions, concerns at all, feel free to reach out to our sales department at Ludlum Measurements, or reach out to your local rep, and we'll be able to get you price quotes on these and more information literature that we have available. So at this time, we're going to sign off, but thank you again for joining us. Be on the lookout. We're going to have more of these coming up. We're excited about these. Hopefully, we're hoping to have one every 30 days. We're going to work on that. So we've got a lot of new instruments coming out, and we want to share those with you. And this is the best way that we can do it at this time with all the COVID going on. We hope to see you guys traveling out soon at trade shows. Again, reach out to us, sales department, your local rep. Thank you from Ludlum Measurements, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.